The elders at Traprain, Athelston Ford and Whitekirk and Tinningham have been getting to know each other over the last 5 years, reflecting on their work and the future of the kirk. This summer, Joanne Evans-Boyton was on study leave, and this gave us the opportunity to conduct a technology pilot over 6 weeks. It was in 2 parts. The first was specially prepared filmed sermons shown during morning worship with no minister present. The second was the leadership of the services conducted by elders and members.
Everyone seems to have enjoyed it. They enjoyed the fact that the film or the video that we were shown as the sermon part of it was of interest to everybody. People seemed to like looking at pictures as well as hearing the minister talk. They felt, I think they learnt quite a lot.
Everybody's felt it was theirs. They've been able to own it. It's been part of their church. It's been part of their geography of their places. Everybody's felt included. It wasn't in an empty room somewhere where it was just filmed and just a minister giving the sermon. I think it's been made to feel as if it was theirs. And I think everybody was very positive about it, which again, I didn't expect everybody to be coming out saying how good they felt it was.
In today's reading from St. Matthew's Gospel, Jesus has just fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. He tells the disciples to get into the boat and to sail to the other side. He dismisses the crowd and climbs up the mountain to pray. When evening came, he was there alone, but the boat was far from shore, battered by the waves. The wind was against them. They were getting into difficulties. Early in the morning, Jesus came walking towards the fishermen on the water. They thought that he was a ghost. They cried out in fear, but Jesus said, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." 120 years ago, James Robertson recognised that power could be dangerous. It should be exercised in consultation with other people. And most surprisingly of all, leadership is more effective when the leader does not insist on power. Andrew was the first to follow Jesus, and in the early church he was given the name Protokletos, which means first called. But although he was the first called, he didn't become the leader of the church. That honour was given to his brother Simon, who became Peter the Rock. So why was Andrew, who was first called, not the leader of the team?
I think they felt that the minister was much nearer them, and it seemed to be a better, clearer connection than sometimes they are when they're away in the pulpit. We're used to that and we don't think so much about it, but when it was close up to them, I think they realised how much, I think more personal maybe, it came across to them than what it did when it was further away.
I think for me the biggest difficulty is that people have to understand that they may have a gift they never thought they had. And I think the biggest problem is to give people that confidence that, yes, they may be called to take part in worship in a more active role than they're used to.
It's surprising how many talents people do have. The people who were doing the prayers were superb. I thought each week we have a reader, but the readers were all good too. It's surprising how many people there are in our midst who have these talents, but they keep them well hidden under a bushel.
I think I probably would always be nervous. I think it's quite daunting, looking at an eager congregation and hoping that you're going to say something that pleases them.
People who maybe see me doing it with no professional background in speaking or anything like that, I think it might give other people confidence to try it as well, to be able to do it.
It's quite a scary thought to think how the future will be if there are less ministers and worship can't continue in the way that we're all used to. But it was a really nice feeling to come away feeling that there are other options. There can be other options for the future that can be quite exciting.
In Athelston Ford, there was a worship group of 5 people. In Whitekirk, 2 elders used the Book of Common Order to shape the services. In Traprain, existing teams of readers and intercessors were complemented by others. All in all, nearly 30 people were involved, including the ministers and technicians. Almost 50 people offered feedback. They thought the participants added freshness and variety to the services. The participants gained in confidence. A few who didn't participate confessed that it made them think that they could contribute more.
I think there was a real buzz in church when it was happening, and there was a lot of chatter and kind of enthusiasm about it. So that's been really nice. Also, the thought that people who can't get to church can perhaps listen and engage with the services at the same time or a time of their choosing, I think is really good, that people can still feel connected, even though they might not physically be in church. So I think that has great potential too.
Yeah, I think it's a way to go. I don't think, for it to be the way every week. I think we need, a real live minister, at least some of the time. But I think it was really successful and I really enjoyed the whole experience, actually, and the sermon. I thought it worked really well. So I do think it's a way to go for the future.
I think that it's very forward-thinking, because most people, if they put their mind to it, I think can take a service. But the thing that would trouble people is the sermon. And I think that in a rural parish, if you can produce a sermon that is well produced, well thought out, and probably importantly delivered by somebody who's known to the rural community rather than somebody that's just dropped in, this is probably the way forward as far as I see it.
I don't really know how it would work if it was more a permanent setup, to get people to do it more than just once or twice in a while. Might be a difficult thing to try and get people to do. We, I think, inevitably are going to run out short of ministers. This is definitely going to be one of the ways that it could be done, but it'll take a lot of work and a lot of organisation by the minister in charge to do this.
I think our churches are very lucky that we have this opportunity to just try out. It's not necessarily going to be the answer for other churches, or not even the answer for us, but we have the opportunity now to try out and see if this might be a possibility for us, particularly in the future when we know there will be less ministers available.
In the feedback, questions were raised about the viability of using modern technology. Is it feasible to recruit enough people with the gifts, time and creativity to commit to this more regularly, especially in smaller, ageing congregations? Will ministers have the time and skills required to prepare for these filmed sermons? Will there be people around who can make films of such quality? And should this constitute a central resource for all the parishes in the presbytery? The psalmist says, "Our lines are fallen in pleasant places." He was talking about the farmer's wagon wheels. Clearly, people want to worship in these pleasant places and are happy to use any tools to sustain worship and make best use of ministers. The poet goes on to say that we have a goodly heritage. Some of our rural parishes have been established for over 1,000 years and have seen much change. Using different media enhanced the presentation and impact of the sermon. People absolutely loved it. Maybe this should be explored further for its own sake. Other solutions to our present predicament were suggested. Worshipping together with neighbouring congregations, sharing the filmed sermons with people unable to attend, extending the use of technology to conferencing and streaming.
People came with a very open mind and prepared to see what came from it.
I had a lot of positive feedback for me specifically, but in general the talk has been extremely positive, and the sermon for me, the sermon was so professionally done. I just kept waiting for Alan Jones to appear. It was good.
Country folk, with the greatest respect, I think, tend to be a bit conservative with a small c, and change isn't something that they like. But in this particular case, it seems to have gone down extremely well.
In his psalm, the poet concludes, "God will show us the path of life." This is the heart of our faith and the spirit in which we undertook the project. For in his presence is the fullness of joy, and at his right hand there is pleasure forevermore.